I have here the Avatar McFarlane line of World of Pandora little playsets. We have the Set Ops Crab Suit, Sute, and the Dire Horse. We also have Jake, Sully, and the Omatakea Rainforest. So these are all currently being clearanced. I always said to myself that I would pick some up if they were on a decent enough clearance. The thing about the Avatar line, I don't know what it is like worldwide, but countrywide, anything based on Avatar Way of Water, that's all fine. That's sold everywhere. Anything that's based on the first movie, for some reason, is a store exclusive only to a video game store. So this was the only possible place that I could ever get these if I ever wanted them. This probably goes on clearance for a little bit less, but these definitely, there's no other place for me to buy these other than that game shop. So I might as well just get these for the lowest price that that game shop is willing to go for. I thought the crab suit in the Avatar Way of Water movie was one of the coolest things that I had seen, so I really wanted to buy this one just for that display purpose. Sute and the Dire Horse I bought because that value just looked really good to me. It has a light up piece, it has a figure, and it has an animal creature. And because I was going to be buying a couple of the other playsets, I did want a little base area for them to hang out in. I know the crab suit doesn't necessarily fit with this, but I'm not too picky about stuff like that. I couldn't care less. But I wasn't going to pay more than $100 for a bunch of different little playset areas. I just wanted one baseline area. The back of the crab suit box advertises some of the other Avatar Way of Water sets that you can get. There's a couple of different vehicles and a couple of different creatures there, as well as some of those other characters. The Dire Horse and the Rainforest closely resemble the same thing. They show off some of the Avatar 1 playsets. They also advertise the fact that there is a blacklight glow and an image of what the display piece looks like. Worth pointing out that some of the things that appear on this little background image aren't actually directly purchasable. Some of these are hidden in little mystery mini egg things that have sold out around here, but I just think that that is something worth noting. And there are also try me buttons that show off the lights. The piece is cool, but it doesn't do too much once you've kind of got it out of its packaging. You can see it does come with a little display stand with different variations of some plant life and fauna, and then there is the crab suit. He's on a little ball joint thing there. We can start with the little rock base there. There's some different colored paints. I see some greens and I see some pinks around there. It has that cheap-ish kind of feeling of plastic. This ultimately feels like one of those toys that you could find at like a gift shop. I do like the customization elements of the plants. They all kind of just peg in, even though I can't get any of them out right now. I've removed all the parts so that I can show you the scene assembly. Obviously the crab suit goes onto this peg here. There's no specific instructions. The box does advertise that this piece here goes into that little hole there, and it connects really well. It's pretty hard to get out again. You can see that the plastic there is quite munted, and the inside hole just easily goes in like that. But you don't really need to put it exactly where the box is. They all kind of feature the same peg, just like so. The back of the box actually shows that the pieces look like that, and I will let you be the judge on how well the box represents these pieces. I think that this piece and this piece look pretty good, but if you look at that pink one there, and then you look at my pink one, it definitely seems to be different from the packaging. As for the crab suit, it actually does feature some pretty good articulation. There is a character inside that cockpit part there, but I can't seem to figure out if that piece can open up or not, so I'm going to assume that he is permanently stuck in there. It has some pretty cool details all around, but it does lack in the articulation of the fan. I was really hoping that this part here would spin, or maybe it could rotate upwards a little bit. Some cool details of the mechanics and the color scheme all around I really like, but as far as the articulation of this thing goes, it feels quite fragile. The arms are able to go in and out like so, and if you can kind of adjust these legs a little, they can kind of go a little bit backwards, but you can see that I'm struggling today. They also bend like that. And the same on this side as well. And these legs here, they do have a bend that's there. Pretty stiff on this one here. Not too bad on that one. It feels better now that it's kind of all up and running, but when I took it out, when I took it out of its packaging, it did feel like it was going to break on me. The thing that I liked about it in the movie was that it can be compacted up, and yeah, you can kind of fold it up into a little ball like this. It has that little gap underneath it for the ball joint here, and so you just kind of gently press it on. And I really like that it has this display option. It does mean that you're able to get a lot of really cool action poses, and it stands pretty well. These are all the pieces that were included in the Dire Horse set, but assembly was a lot tougher than the crab suit, so we'll just start looking at it first. The details of this one make me very happy, and I'm glad that I bought this one especially. I think that the articulation of the figure is really great. It's very reminiscent of some of the earlier Avatar toys from when I was a kid. Its head is on a little ball joint piece there. It just connects like so. I like a lot of those colors. I really like those paints as well. The legs are on their own little joints, which means that they do have complete free roaming articulation from one another, as though they are their own individual piece. The legs at the back though, not so much. They don't really bend outwards, they just go up and down, so they must clearly be sharing the same. It's cool. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. Its tail does have articulation, what do you know? There's no direct area for Sute to sit on him either. The dire horse just kind of stands in position and Sute just kind of gets seated there, so Sute will probably come falling off a lot of the time. If you maneuver its legs around a little bit, it's mostly within these two, then you can actually make it stand on its own, just like that. The Sute figure is pretty interesting actually. It has a lot more articulation than I thought it would. You can see some of its close-up details here. Obviously he's not going to be as detailed as a much bigger figure. They're working with a much smaller character model here, but he does feature some of those key details like the splits in his toes, like his elongated feet there. Articulation wise though, his arms go up and down, but they also are able to go a little bit in and out, so you can have some distance between him and his hips there. His arms are on very similar pegs as the rest of the dire horse, and they can just come popping off like that. His leg articulation is the exact same. They come off a lot easier than his arms do. Let me just get that one back on there. And his head even rotates and has some articulation, but it kind of hurts because his ears are very pointy, but I think he's on the exact same joint. Easy. The back, he has these weird parts here that are kind of sticking out of his legs. I think it's like a seat rest so that he can sit on the dire horse much easier. This tail does not have any special articulation and cannot come off. Placing it on the dire horse just like that. Yeah, so he doesn't actually properly attach to it as far as I'm aware. You just kind of have to maneuver him around until you're happy with how he's seated. But he seems to be pretty sturdy on there now actually. As for the little base area, it's the same idea and concept as the crab suit one. This one does have battery operations down here on Trimmer mode. Trimmer mode is just a simple light. And turn on has it fully on actually. The lights on the Pandora things are also black lights. Shining a black light onto the figure reveals some special prints and it lights up like so, which I think is really neat. You have these little plastic pieces of fauna and shrubbery. Again, it just feels like that really cheap gift shop type of plastic, which is pretty funny. I paid $23 for this premium product. I'm just teasing. They connect in just like so, but it's a bit of a tighter connection as opposed to the other one that I just did. That blue one there goes in pretty easily. And then there's this pole here, and the dire horse had the little hole there. But I've been trying to get it on for quite a while, so let's see how successful we are now. Very difficult. You could see it as a pro or a con as to how difficult it is to get on there. Obviously you could just heat up the plastic and that would help, but I kind of like to see if the toys function on their own at first. I place Sute up on there. This is the end scene. It is cool, and in comparison, I'm pretty happy with this one. I like the amounts of articulation, and I do like that it adds a creature, a light-up ability, and a character to the pack. I actually quite like the little box thing that it came in. I think that looks quite cool. Can I talk about how annoying and frustrating this thing was to get out? This was attached to this little tree bark here, and it was very tight around that corner. I could barely fit any of the scissors inside, but here we have the ultimate base display. I have the least amount to say about this one out of all the other ones, I think, actually. It's pretty much exactly how it appears when you pull it out of the box. It is a pretty good stern piece of plastic there, with a lot of tree life and fauna. It does look very pretty. It looks like something that you would find in a fish tank. It has electronics though, so probably not ideal. If I enjoyed the details of the last one, then you could assume that I really like the details of all of these ones. I like a lot of the plant life, and I'll just kind of go over some of the little plant decorations that we can see around here. Some of the pieces do look similar to some of the ones in the other sets. This type of tree here was featured in one of those other ones. I know that you can get these things in the little small sets. But the vibrancy of the colors and the different variations of the plants really help to make the set stand out. More really interesting color usage up there as well, and the paints of all the greens really bring the forest to life here. Underneath it, you can just see that it's a whole bunch of screws and a little try me and on mode for the light and some batteries down there. I haven't tested this out, but since these pieces do seem similar to those others, I'm kind of assuming that if you unscrew these screws down here, you'll be able to access those little hatches where you can probably push some of these plants out and maybe swap them over with some other ones, possibly, but I'm not willing to try it out myself. Try me mode for the lights, as shown before. This one lights up a lot actually. There's a lot more to talk about with these lights. And then there is a on switch as well here, where it just shows it off like this. So we have, starting from down here, there is a little piece of white plastic that I thought might have been a piece of packaging, but it's actually supposed to be an LED light. And there's one that is down there as well. There is something that is up here, which is shining its black light onto that tree, and that tree doesn't usually have those details. And then just because of the colors of the fauna, it kind of looks like these ones will light up as well. On the other side here, we have another one of those little plastic ones down there. We have a light here, and because of its placement, it makes it look as though these ones here are glowing, which I think is really cool. It's very pretty. This is probably the best of the light up featured sets. The only added extra is the Jake Sully figure. There's no animal or creature involved with this one, which is a bit disappointing for that price point, but the Jake Sully figure is pretty cool. He's quite similar to Sute within his articulation and some of his details. The legs have the same rotation point just like Sute does. It's more obvious here that you can actually rotate at the hips there. I didn't know that about Sute, but he can as well. But he doesn't really have anything to interact with here, and because they don't have like foot pegs or anything, he just kind of, that's about it. The box advertises that he can kind of like stand around up here. Actually, yeah, he can pretty well. That wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, but there's nothing really too major for him to be doing here, other than just kind of hanging out. Now, I only realized this after purchasing all of these, but there's nowhere for these things to actually connect onto. The world of Pandora is simply just a display thing. We can just kind of put Sute maybe there. You just kind of feel around and see if it can kind of connect like a little puzzle piece, but it would have been nice if there might have been like some pegs or some form of a thing that could kind of connect the two together. I know that this one here doesn't fit because of his base, but this is basically what my one ultimately ends up looking like. It's a cool little series that would look much better if you had a bunch of things that could kind of connect with one another. So unless you were a dedicated person who would be willing to buy a bunch of these, then yeah, I think I would recommend these. These kind of toys are very reminiscent of early McFarlane, I think. It kind of reminds me of the Lost diorama that they used to do. The light up toys as well, the King Kong toys from when I was a kid used to utilize this kind of a feature of display things and little figurines. I prefer the bigger McFarlane figures, but I'm pretty nostalgic towards something like this. I might go and buy some more things just so that I can kind of make my display seem a bit bigger and a bit more worthwhile. But otherwise, that's pretty much all I have to say about the McFarlane Avatar World of Pandora line.